The Seahawks are going to look very different in 2022. Russell Wilson was traded this offseason and Bobby Wagner was released, so the roster is going to be without its top two players over the last decade. Seattle is going all in on a rebuild, and trust me, they're going to suck. Star running back Chris Carson even just retired because of an injury, but at least Seattle did re-sign DK Metcalf. Unless you're a Seahawks fan, it's going to be hard to find a reason to watch them this year. Pete Carroll is still the head coach. Yes, even at 70 years old, he's still kicking. We'll see what happens once he has to sit back every single week, though, and watch the Seahawks offense try to score points. And likely, it's not going to help that the quarterback position probably won't be good. At all. Anything from Russell Wilson down is going to be a gigantic downgrade. But Drew Lock, which means we now get to watch the quarterback competition we've always been dreaming of. Drew Lock versus Geno Smith. Now remember, the Broncos drafted Drew Lock back in 2019 in the second round, 42nd overall. His rookie year definitely didn't start as well as he would have hoped. Lock ended up suffering a thumb injury in the preseason, and he ended up just landing on injured reserve. But he did return in late November and was named the starter. In his NFL debut, Lock led Denver down the field in 15 seconds to set up a game-winning field goal against the Chargers. Lock ended up starting 5 games as a rookie, and he was fun to watch. The Broncos went 4-1, but it wasn't really because of him, and his stats weren't necessarily good. 1,020 yards, 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He was named the starter to begin 2020, but suffered a shoulder injury in week 2 and missed time. Lock devastated the Chargers again, throwing for 3 touchdowns in a comeback victory in week 8, and that ended with that kind of crazy touchdown pass to KJ Hamler with no time remaining. He certainly had his moments, but most of them were bad. In week 10 against Las Vegas, he threw 4 interceptions. Lock ended up finishing the season with 15 interceptions to only 16 touchdowns, plus 2,933 yards. Clearly, Denver did not believe in him, and they went out and traded for Teddy Bridgewater. Lock lost the quarterback competition to Bridgewater, but he did end up starting in 3 games in 2021. He threw for 787 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. And now we get to see if he can just keep being mediocre in Seattle. But if it's not him, it's going to be Geno Smith, which is the most uninspiring name at quarterback in the league. So Geno was drafted back also in the second round in 2013 by the Jets, and he did end up starting every game for New York as a rookie, and he did have his moments. They were certainly moments. In the 3 games after the Jets' bye, Geno did not score any points and committed 8 turnovers. He finished the year with over 3,000 yards, 12 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions.
Take us through that last play.
I played like shit.
Big yikes. He was named the starter for 2014, and he went on to pass for over 2,500 yards, 13 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions, while the Jets went 3-13. He did have a perfect passer rating to end the season, but there were a lot of other memorable moments that kind of overshadow it. Geno was fined for cursing at fans while walking to the locker room. He missed a team meeting because he didn't realize there was a 3-hour time difference, and he got benched for Michael Vick multiple times. Geno certainly started 2015 with a bang. He fractured his jaw after he got punched in the face by a teammate over $600. Over his last 2 seasons in New York, Geno only started a single game, which was a win. He had 391 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and an ACL tear over the span. Geno played for the Giants in 2017. He started 1 game, which actually ended Eli Manning's 210-game starting streak. He did lose and had 212 yards and a touchdown on the year in total. The next year, he just had 1 completion with the Chargers, and in 2019, he signed with Seattle. Through 2 years with the Seahawks, he had 4 completions for 33 yards. Then in 2021, Geno did get to see plenty of playtime after Wilson got hurt. He went 1-2 with 702 yards and 5 touchdowns to a single interception. Now, if you're looking for a reason of why Geno may start over Locke, it's going to be that he already knows the offense, and he already has a rapport with the Seahawks wideouts like DK Metcalf. The Seahawks used the 64th pick in the second round in 2019 on DK Metcalf. He had a single game over 100 yards as a rookie with 123 against the Buccaneers. He finished the year with 900 yards and 7 touchdowns. Then in the postseason, DK had 160 yards, an NFL rookie record in the wild card against the Eagles. He really broke out in 2020. 5 games over 100 yards, over 1,300 yards, a Seahawks franchise record, and 10 touchdowns. DK was a second-team All-Pro, made the Pro Bowl, and then ranked 22nd on the NFL Top 100 Players of 2021. Plus, he got memed after he chased down Buda Baker after an interception and got up to over 22 miles per hour. In the offseason, he actually ran the 100 meter at a USA track and field event and hoped to qualify for the Olympic trials, but he finished 15th out of 17. In 2021, DK had 1 game with over 100 yards and had a total of 906. DK is a beast, but he's not the only stud wide receiver in Seattle. The Seattle Seahawks traded up to 69, nice, to select Tyler Lockett in the 3rd round in 2015. Lockett made an immediate impact, mostly on special teams. He was even named the NFC Special Teams Player of the Month for September, a period that included a franchise record 105-yard punt return touchdown. Lockett earned the honor again in December, too. For his special teams work, Lockett was a first-team All-Pro and made the Pro Bowl. His next 2 seasons in Seattle were pretty similar. He was a second-team All-Pro each year for special teams. Plus, over the span, he had over 1,100 yards and 3 touchdowns through the air, but a breakout was on the way. Ahead of 2018, he got a 3-year, $31.8 million extension. He went on to have 965 yards and 10 touchdowns. Lockett only continued to get better too. He had over 1,000 receiving yards in both 2019 and 2020, plus 18 touchdowns over the span. Lockett got another pretty deal in 2021, 4-year, $69.2 million, and went on to record 1,175 yards and 8 touchdowns. Now, I already talked about Drew Lock, who was kind of the biggest name in that trade for Russell Wilson, but if you're looking for the best player in the deal, it's probably Noah Fant. Denver used its 1st-round pick in 2019 on Fant. He had 2 games with over 100 yards as a rookie and finished the season with 562 yards and 3 touchdowns. Fant improved in 2020, not by a ton, but still, he had 673 yards and 3 touchdowns. His 2021 season was much of the same, 610 yards, 4 touchdowns. It would have been nice to see what he could have done with a good quarterback, like, Russell Wilson, but instead, we just get to watch him with more of Drew Lock. Another new weapon, not because of a trade, but because in the 2nd round in 2022, Seattle drafted Kenneth Walker at 41. Walker started his collegiate career at Wake Forest, and he had nearly identical back-to-back seasons, both with 579 yards. The difference, he had 4 touchdowns in 2019, 13 in 2020. Then Walker decided to transfer to Michigan State, and it worked out. He rushed for 4 touchdowns in his debut for the Spartans, and on the year, he had over 1,600 yards and 18 touchdowns. He won the Doak Walker Award given to the best running back in the nation and was a unanimous All-American. He gets to slide into a, pretty shitty offensive line alongside Rashad Penny because, like I mentioned earlier, Chris Carson, who has been the guy in the backfield for the Seahawks for the last few years, retired after a bad neck injury. Looking back, the Seahawks are probably glad they used their 1st-round pick, number 27, at the 2018 NFL Draft on Rashad Penny. Yes, the Seahawks did use a 1st-round pick on a running back, and he didn't even have much of a role as a rookie, 419 yards and 2 touchdowns. But late in 2019, it seems like he was on the right track, and then he tore his ACL. He spent almost all of 2020 recovering, and finally, he was activated in December and appeared in 3 games with 34 yards. Ahead of 2021, the Seahawks declined his 5th-year option, and Penny was even hurt for some of the season and only played in 10 games. It didn't matter, he still broke out. In a 5-week span to end the year, Penny rushed for 671 yards and 6 touchdowns. Seattle re-signed Penny to a 1-year, $5.7 million deal. All all that money to play behind the worst offensive line in the league again. But maybe it'll be better, because at the 2022 NFL Draft, the Seahawks used the 9th overall pick on Charles Cross. Charles Cross redshirted his true freshman season at Mississippi State and only appeared in 3 games. Then in 2020, he was the starting left tackle for the Bulldogs. Going into the 2021 season, what was actually his redshirt sophomore year, he was considered one of the top tackle prospects in the country and went on to be named first team All-SEC before he declared for the draft. And like Kenneth Walker, Drew Lock, and Noah Fant, he's going to be one of the players to watch for the Seahawks this season, as Seattle gets absolutely killed in the NFC West and is probably just really, really hard to watch.